What's your question, darling? Where are you?
Here.
Yes,
Hi.
sweetheart.
You say that you gave up your anger. Is that right? Or
Well,
am I
I'm in the process of giving up my
Yeah.
anger. Definitely,
So
I've made progress. No question.
What did you replace it with?
Accepting the thing that I thought was horrible once and not seeing it as horrible anymore. I've reinterpreted it. That's it, literally. It's reinterpreting. The thing that would have made me angry that my attachment couldn't cope with. So when attachment doesn't get what it wants, it's a panic attack of anger. How dare you do that to me? How dare that happen to me? So when you're working with those cognitive process, slowly, you become more courageous. I'm not saying I'm that advanced at it, but I can say it with confidence, that you become more courageous in confronting that thing that would have made you having a panic attack once. Of course, there's more to it than that, because when it, say, comes to... I've always been a bit of a political activist, right? When I was, I was hippie, Catholic first, then a hippie, and then a kind of radical left and all that stuff, and then feminist. So I had my very fierce positions about the world, and the usual way we are with that is you have a group of people you feel compassion for, and then you have to have a group whom you hate, who are the cause, isn't it? It's true, isn't it? That's the view we have, isn't it? Yeah. I can't escape karma. I keep trying to get off it, but I can't. I have to answer it now. Now we're all going there, so you people have the karma to hear about karma, okay? Okay, so the bigger picture is this one. Okay, what to do? The bigger picture is this. The trillions of sentient beings, ants and humans and dogs and monkeys and all the bugs in our body and lots of others that we can't even see. The Buddha says all their consciousnesses are these beginningless and endless continuities of mental moments. Every millisecond of anything we're ever experiencing is nothing goes astray. Everything gets stored in this consciousness of ours. And we are constantly, the way we respond to things, we're constantly creating karma, this really dynamic process, starting with the mind, and that's sowing seeds in our mind. We're programming our mind every second. So broadly speaking, Buddha says that when the actions of body and speech that we do that are motivated by attachment and ego and fears and depression and dramas, join the universe here, they can only leave seeds in the mind that will ripen. They'll make us miserable now, cause us suffering now, but will ripen in the future. And it's a highly sophisticated process as future suffering. And that by definition, all the actions we do with our body and speech that are motivated by kindness and forgiveness and love and wisdom and clarity are sowing seeds in our mind that can only be good for us now and help us become more clear and sane now, but also program us with these seeds that will then eventually ripen as our happy experiences. Speaking really simply, if you look at the universe, Buddha says everybody wants to be happy and no one wants to suffer. And one way of framing all of his teachings is in terms of how to get happy and how to stop suffering. So clearly it's more nuanced than that, but that's the fundamental. So the first stages of practice are, given that I'm up to here with suffering, I'm sick of suffering, and how do I know that? Well, check the last time when someone cheated on me. Did I like it? No. Check the last time someone was mean to you. Check the last time you got a bellyache. Check the last time you got cancer. Check the last time someone lied to you. Do you like that? No, thank you. Buddha says it's not random, it's not good luck, it's not bad luck, it's not punishment, it's not reward, it's the natural result of seeds I planted in my mind, 57 lives ago, whatever. He would say this is a natural law. This happens naturally. No one runs it. It's not punishment. It's not reward. In Buddhism, there's no concept of a punisher and a rewarder. It's a natural law. And each of us is the creator of our own happiness and suffering, moment by moment, now and in the future. So that already is such an intense concept, only because it radically argues with our prevailing views, that life is random, no one knows why you get born, no one knows why Hitler, no one knows why Mother Teresa, no one knows why someone rapes me, no one knows. We say this as if it's scientific. I find that complete fascism.
So can I start? So
you can do it. Yeah, absolutely. Go.
So are you saying...
Yeah.
You're sowing the seeds of your future self.
Every second, yeah.
But not for someone. So it's
not
like you're sowing the seeds of.
Oh my goodness, no!
People.
You can't do that. That's weird. Like
So
if you play,
future.
so if you play piano every day, don't be surprised in 10 years you've produced a really good pianist. That's called karma, dear. You created the causes to become a pianist. I don't get good at piano because you practice, honey. I wish I did.
So karma is only of itself.
It's totally personal. It's just a word.
It's personal.
Okay, Buddha uses the word. It's used very colloquially. It's just simply, it means action, and the real meaning of the word action is intention, the thought. Everything starts with the thought. 99% of what we do is programmed, so we don't notice it's a thought. But karma is this law. Buddha says it's a natural law that runs the universe. No one runs it. Everybody's lives. Karma is this law that plays out in the lives and minds of all sentient beings. It doesn't have to have a creator. It doesn't have to have someone running it. Or like the Muslims would say, it doesn't need an architect. We do well on our own, doing our own. You know, in other words, we know very well if you eat lousy food, don't be surprised you're creating a sick... What are you doing? What's happened? Why are you giving it away? No, you're not. You might not be. I'm talking to you.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So I'm conscious of sharing the...
No, don't be such a good girl. Shut up. I'm talking to you. And I'm... Okay. So listen. We know very well if you practice piano every day, it's not Mozart that kind of creates a good musician. You don't say, please reward me with being good at music, Mozart. You know that your practice will produce you being a good musician. And you're honoured to take responsibility, aren't you? Do you see my point? Now, and then let's say you eat good food. You know very well the natural consequences. You get health in the future. It's not reward, is it? No one has to. It's not as if you get rewarded. But we have that dualistic view when it comes to morality. We don't have a dualistic view. If I say to you, why are you good at piano? Well, honey, I have practiced for 10 years. You're happy to thank your teacher. You're happy to thank Mr. Bach and Mr. Steinway, but you are very honoured to take responsibility for the main role of hard work. Now, why are you angry? Oh, that's not my fault. That's mummy's fault and daddy's fault and his fault and her fault. We have this very dualistic view about delusions and problems. We think it's the outside that causes it. That's like saying, why are you good at music? Well, that's Bach's fault. That's Steinway's fault. That's bizarre. So Buddha says karma is a natural law. Happiness comes from positivity and suffering comes from negativity. So of course, because we don't believe we've got past lives, and then you get raped in this life, and lots of us do. Oh, you mean I deserve it, we'll say? Well, But what's interesting, we never ask the question about why do good things happen. I've never had that one question ever in my life. It's always why bad things happen. But, you know, how come, like my point to Amy, I look at Amy, I can see a beautiful human being. She's obviously not an angry person. She's got a patient mind. Where's Amy? She's hiding. There she is. She's clearly not an angry person. She's clearly got a kind mind, generous, loving, forgiving. Why is she like that? Because she's practiced them in the past. When we can own our good stuff. So what, you've got nice people in your life? You've got mummies, or you've got some people who look after you and love you. You've got a house. You've got money in the bank. So you're not something a little bit, okay. But you could argue that some good things have happened to you in this life, right? Well, we only remember the bad things. You mean I deserve? Well, yes, you do, all these good things. That's the fruit of your virtue. So when we can own the good things, it's easy peasy to own the rubbish. Because we are. It's sort of like, they use the analogy of seeds all the time. We sow seeds and get the fruits. Well, our life is like our garden for the Buddha. And everything in it, it's our garden, baby. All the weeds and the herbs. But we have this view that I deserve happiness. And I don't deserve suffering. Well, excuse me, where does that assumption come from? If you look in your bank, you don't say, how dare there be no dollars in my bank? I deserve dollars. People would laugh at you because they know that you've got to work for your dollars, baby. You don't look in your garden and say, who put weeds in my garden? I don't deserve weeds. They're your weeds, baby. Well, that's the way Buddha talks about our lives. Whatever is in our life is the fruit of our past actions. I mean, of course it sounds cosmic. It sounds insane to us. But it's dealt with an immense depth in the literature. And the Buddha would say, he has observed this to be true with his own mind. We can too. He says everything's knowable by the mind. It's not mysterious. It's not coming from on high. It's not punishment. It's not reward. It's natural law. That's how he talks. And this is a shock to us to hear it so bluntly, you know. So the consequence of this for a Buddhist, if you take it on board, is that you have enormous accountability. Who would want to cause yourself suffering? So just like you would not want to have another cigarette in case you get cancer, you would not want to be angry or kill or lie or steal because you don't want future suffering. So it's accountability that makes you want to be moral. Morality for Buddhism is a natural law. It's not punishment and reward, you know. But we have the view of punishment and reward very strongly. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is a massive concept. And this is very much, I mean, you know, this is why, for example, I use the example of, say, in 2003, Richard Gere invited His Holiness the Dalai Lama to New York. He also invited 20 former prisoners, all of whom had done some kind of meditation in prison. And he invited people like me who were working with people in prison. It was a very moving day. It was like a whole cross-section of Americans, you know, Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and black and white and male and female. They had a wonderful day, all talking about their suffering and everything and meeting the Dalai Lama. But he also invited 2 young Tibetan nuns. I mean, you know, Tibetans, their view of the universe is the one I'm describing here. This is their default view. They're brought up with this view, just like we're brought up with the view that Mummy made us, and you understand my point. This is normal for them, and it's the Asian culture for several thousand years to have this view. It's the view of the world that they have, and that they therefore use as the basis of interpreting their life. Do you understand? That whatever happens to you is the fruit of your own actions. So already, even as children, there's a sense of accountability and not freaking out, why is this happening to me, I don't deserve it, or whatever. This just doesn't occur to them. So they were talking about their experience. They'd been sexually abused in prison, these young women in Tibet, sexually abused and tortured. So they were talking about their suffering. And I think for most of the Americans, if you could argue, if you could kind of quantify suffering, you could probably argue theirs is worse than everybody else's, possibly. It depends. But it was very clear, first of all, to the Americans, that these young women weren't angry. This is a shock to us. I mean, we'd spent hours trying to unpack this concept. That means, think about what anger says. How dare you do that to me? I don't deserve it. Now, if you began in your mother's womb, you're correct. But if you didn't, then you're not so correct. And this is what's scary. I mean, the way I say it, it's kind of shocking. Buddha says your conscious comes from before. We've got millions of seeds in our mind, negative ones and positive. And every millisecond of what is rising as suffering at the hands of others, arising as neurosis in my own mind, this is the fruit of my past actions. Whatever arises in my mind as virtue and goodness and compassion and kindness and empathy is the result of my past actions. Whatever arises in my life as kindness and love and compassion and getting money in the bank and this and healthy bodies, that's the result of my past actions. So my life is my garden. So these young women, that's the view they have. So of course they're not angry. They were sad. Tears were coming. And then at the end, one of them said, and of course, we had compassion for our torturers because we knew we must have harmed them in the past. And because we know that they will suffer terribly in the future because of their actions. So that's the basis in Buddhism of compassion, which is such a shocking concept to us. It really takes a while to process that, you know. So that's it. What can I do? You people.
Thank you.
Hang on. Yes, sweetheart.
Hang on, excuse me, just one moment.
Yes.
Just we're recording, that's all.
Yes, darling.
I have no problem kind of believing
That's interesting.
that.
No, that's interesting.
That,
Yeah, there you go. Lots of people like the idea. I can't believe that so many people these days like the idea about reincarnation and karma. It's quite fascinating. I'm very fascinated. But go on though. Yeah.
The point where I struggle a little bit with it and come up against a wall.
Yes,
with
of course.
Is when there's a massive event like the tsunami or
Yes.
something like that, something that takes
Yes.
out thousands
I understand,
of people
darling.
in one hit.
Yes.
And I wonder, how does that
I understand. Well,
work?
okay. There's also good things happen in groups too, don't they?
Yeah, true.
I mean, we do things in groups. We're very social beings, wouldn't you agree? So Buddha says we've been bumping into each other for countless lives. And we meet in groups, we experience things as groups, we do things as groups. So, you know, you've got the Tibetans, one group of 6 million people suffering enormously at the hands of the Chinese communists. That's why that young nun, her view, there's no big surprise for them. It's karma, you know. That's their view. They, as Tibetans from 1,000 lives ago maybe, have created the cause. But equally good things. I mean, you know, you go to some places, you know how they talk about Switzerland is always clean. Well, it really is. I was in Zurich. So you've got the karma to have a really clean place where people are moral and they don't steal your money in general. So groups of people are experiencing good things as well as bad because we do things together, so we're going to meet again and again. I mean, I know it sounds so cosmic to us if we have the materialist view. It really does sound like a hippie. But this is the view of karma. And the Buddha would say there's nothing random. There's nothing that is not can't be explained by this law that's a natural law that runs the universe, that no one runs it. It's like botany or gravity. It merely occurs, but it occurs in the minds and lives of sentient beings. So we do things in groups, we do things individually, we experience things in groups. Do you understand what I'm saying? Amy had a question. What, sweetheart? Yes, darling, go. Yes, sweetheart.
I was just going to clarify the concept of the reincarnation. So the accountability then lies in all your actions in your current life, then to then flow on to your next life.
Basically, it's like as if why the analogy of a garden is good. You know, don't you? Even though you don't know botany, let's say, you know that necessarily every seed that goes in the ground will bring some kind of fruit, won't it? So if you're going to plant weeds, it's going to bring weeds. If you plant herbs, you'll get herbs. If you plant flowers, you'll get flowers. So now, equally, you look in your garden now, you've got lots of herbs and lots of flowers and lots of weeds. So, of course, you must have planted them. That's the kind of logic of it. And that there's nothing that's random. Therefore, in Buddhism, there is no concept of good luck and bad luck, quite literally. There's no sense of it's not fair that good things happen to me and it's not fair that bad things happen. That's weird for us because that's a default assumption we have.
Yeah.
So it's quite hard to hear it. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
the view of this, and I can say in my own life, being an old radical lefty and an old Catholic and always loving to blame everybody, you know, somehow this view has taken time, but it, for me, philosophically, psychologically, this is the view I'm working with. I'm happy to work with this view, and I find it workable. And I find it has, no, I'm not trying to sell it to you. Well, I mean, I am sort of selling it to you, but not trying to force it down your throat. I'm trying to explain my experience of it. I found this the piece that was enormous when I first heard the Buddha's teachings, almost like something I'd been missing before. Even when I had a lot of faith in God, I never thought of God as my creator, actually. It was interesting. So the karmic one has been massive for me, because it means we're not innately male or female or good or bad. It's this continuity, and it's kind of relative, and each thing pops up. It's mine. You own it, and therefore you know you can face it and own it, and then you can then go beyond it, rather than this constant panic attack of things, good things happening, bad things happening, and never knowing why things happen. I mean, I'm happy to work with the karmic view. Buddha might be wrong, and I'm prepared to find him wrong, but I'm enjoying his company until I do. Do you understand my point?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, darling. What else, people? Any more questions?
Yeah, we're just
Yes, darling. And over here, there's a gentleman, and here too. Please, just here. Oh, someone else.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just wondering, if a plane goes down with 200 people on it, is that what we call collective karma?
That's right. That's the term they use. Like the one of groups of people, or like good karma, you know, that a plane, a group of 200 people enjoying something, you know, delicious. Same thing. It's group karma, yeah.
So
collective karma.
How does that work in terms of those people?
What's her
coming-
question? Here, the same question. We do things in groups, don't we? So we experience the fruits in groups. We do things in groups. Look at us right now. There's a group of people here. We're going to meet again in this configuration maybe in 1,000 lifetimes. And won't be talking about football, honey. We'll be talking about something like this. We create the cause. Do you understand? That's how they say. What else? Someone else? Yes. Yes. And Buddha's not asking us to believe a single word. It's just he's letting us know what he's found to be so.
You were brought up believing there was a God,
I had faith in God, yep.
and a lot of religions have believe in gods.
Yes.
Do you remember the day you stopped believing there was a God?
Well, I decided when I was 19, when I ran away from home because I was too scared to sleep with this married man that I tried to seduce. I got nervous. So I ran away from home, and I ran away to Adelaide. I was too scared to run away to Sydney, I think. I was from Melbourne. So I think then while I was in that process of sorting out my life in Adelaide when I was 19, I decided it was time to say goodbye God and hello boys. It was a very clear, rational decision. I was not interested, wasn't guilt or anything. I loved God. I loved Our Lady. I loved the saints. I was in love with God. I thought about God and the meaning of life all the time. Although I was very naughty. But then I decided time to go. Goodbye, God. Thanks, mate. Bye. Then I decided I'd become a hippie and enjoy sex and drugs and more jazz. That's my answer.
But I thought, weren't you a Catholic nun?
No, just a Catholic. I wanted to be a Catholic nun. I was on my knees when I was 12 begging Mummy to let me be a nun like St. Therese of Lisieux. Yeah. So then I moved into becoming a hippie, and then it moved into becoming a communist, and then it moved into becoming a black radical politics, and then feminist. So then eventually I wanted something spiritual again, and I bumped into these Buddhists. That's my evolution, roughly, internal. Looking all the time for a way of describing the planet to myself, finding a way to a big picture. I wanted a big picture, to understand the world. I never went the scientific way. It was more political and social, and then I went back to the spiritual and bumped into these Buddhists, and they said I should look at my mind, and I'm still trying to do that. Say some more.
Thank you.
What are you thinking? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I have another question. Do you know of people that are actually have an attachment to Buddhism?
Well, attachment. Okay, again, look at what attachment is. Attachment, if you see it in a raw form, it's completely obsessive, neurotic, fear-based, I-based, frantic, baby that wants to get what it wants every moment. So it's going to be there to some degree, Buddha says, until we're quite advanced as a practitioner. So you could argue that as you're working on identifying attachment and attempting to let go of it, it's still going to be there as one of your roommates, but you learn to work with it, to analyze it, and to grow your virtuous qualities. So yes, you could say there's definitely can be attachment to it until you're very advanced, but at least you stop being attachment to stupid things that'll harm you, and at least if you're going to have a relationship, be attached to a nice person, be attached to a job where you can be useful, be attached to useful activities, and then slowly you lessen the attachment, but you're learning something useful on the way. So it's kind of some kind of incremental thing. Attachment doesn't mean enthusiasm. Attachment doesn't mean enjoying something. Attachment is neurotic and I-based and makes you self-centered and ridiculous. And if you were attached to something that's good, like a spiritual path, or your job to help others by, let's say you have a job that's a beneficial job to benefit others, if we're really mainly attached to it, we'll destroy it, it will pollute it, and we'll get no pleasure from it. And then we'll get bored and we'll want to change it. Are we communicating? A little bit. Yeah? Okay. Are you sure? Okay. Anybody else? I mean, I've got enormous... Can you see I'm enthusiastic? May I know your name? May I know your name? May I know your name? Tony. Yeah, my brother's name. So you can see I'm enthusiastic, Tony. Yeah, okay. So that... I'm not saying I haven't got attachment. Go on, give him the microphone. What's happening, Tony?
My two daughters for Father's Day.
Go.
And
what they give you?
I'd never heard of you, and
what they give you for Father's Day?
As soon as it mentioned Buddhist, I knew I was immediately interested. Sorry.
You mean they gave you this ticket?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry, you poor thing. You came. Go on.
No, it's the one next to me you should be saying sorry to, because she's come along with me.
Oh my God! So you had to come.
And she's not as convinced as I am. You should be talking to her, not me. But anyway, when someone said Buddhist nun, this was the last thing I was expecting to see tonight. But it's been good fun. And we're going to have a family dinner tomorrow night. Debbie just got back from New York 2 days ago.
New York's my favourite city.
And we're going to have an interesting chat around the dinner table
Good, I'm very happy.
Night, let me tell you.
Well done, Debbie. Well, thank you, Tony.
Thanks.
Where's your daughter? Is she here too?
No, they're one's at a ball.
Oh, okay.
And the other one's waiting to get my kidney in October.
My God. Was he?
And the other two are in New York.
There you go. So she's in New York.
So that's her present.
You got to send your kidney to New York.
Well, no, my kids are in, 2 kids in New York. My kidney's right here with me for the moment.
What?
No, I'm giving a kidney to one of my daughters.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. But you got to go with the kidney, or they send it separate?
No, it's the daughter here. My God, this is getting confusing. Even I'm not sure now.
So then, okay, so the point is this. So don't be attached to the fact that you're giving your kidney, but truly delight that you're giving your kidney. That's amazing. And we all clap you.
I know. It's...
Look at Debbie.
That's going to be great karma. I tell you, this kidney's going to be much better now in her body.
Okay. What else, you people? What else?